Welcome into another edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview presented by Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James. I'm Neil McCready. That is MPW Digital football expert Pete DeWeese getting ready for week 2 on the Ole Miss schedule. The Rebels still ranked number 6 in the Associated Press poll, now up to number 5 in the coaches poll, are at home again this week after a 76-0 win over Furman. They play Middle Tennessee State. It's a 3:15 p.m. game. You can see it on the SEC network if you're not in Vaught Hemingway Stadium. We'll get to that game. We'll talk about the Rebels. Pete's going to show some film from last week's annihilation of Furman, a team that, despite being down 8 touchdowns, still ran tempo, which upset yours truly quite a bit as the night grew longer and longer. But we won't delve too much into that because that's a me problem. That's not a you problem. So we'll talk about what the Rebels did and looked like. But first, I want to tell you that we're brought to you by Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James. It's a full-service investment team based in Jackson, Mississippi, providing financial planning and investment management to clients across the state and surrounding areas. Ryan Geary and his partners are a local team that utilize the strength and resources of a national firm to bring their clients impeccable levels of service. This includes access to investment strategies and portfolio managers not available to all investors. If you are interested in a no-obligation consultation or just want to be added to their monthly market update email list, reach out to financial advisor Ryan Geary with Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James at 601-368-2215 or Ryan, that's R-Y-A-N, Geary, Geary, at raymondjames.com. Raymond James and Associates Incorporated, member New York Stock Exchange, SIPC. Pete, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good. I was asking you this earlier. Is there a lot you can take away from a 76-0 SEC win over a FCS opponent? I mean, I've had people ask me, like, what do you take from that? I'm like, I don't know, not much, except Ole Miss looked really, really good. That's what struck me was they looked like an elite team handling an FCS team. I don't know that you can draw a hell of a lot more than that, but you're much more of a football guy than I am, so feel free to tell me I'm an idiot.
Not an idiot. There was very little cause for concern. There's a play or two here or there, and it's the things that are going to happen early in the season. And if you are, if you're one of the people that was concerned about how Ole Miss would look coming out of the kind of non-traditional camp setting, where it looked like Ole Miss maybe wasn't as physical as a lot of teams, or at least as a lot of people are kind of what they have in their head of what that camp process looks like, knowing just from practice reports, at least it appears that sometimes it almost appeared like guys were on a rotation where, hey, this guy's going to be no contact today, and it's about keeping them fresh. And there were signs of a little bit of that, and that's going to happen. It certainly wasn't egregious. It wasn't all too common. But there were some little things. You saw continuity on the offensive line a couple times where they're not in mid-season form, and part of that is maybe being down a couple of bodies.
Well, they went through most of the preseason camp with Scott and Warren, one of them at least being in the lineup, and sometimes two of them being in the lineup, and suddenly they're both out of the lineup. They went through most of the preseason camp with Jeremy James not working as a starter, and suddenly he's working as a starter. And then you throw in the 2 guys from Washington who both missed the first few practices of camp because of various ailments. And yeah, there was some continuity stuff up front. And you know this as a offensive guy, offensive lines, it's kind of like a recipe a little bit. You have to have all the ingredients, and you sometimes have to put the ingredients in a certain order. You can't just, it's not always a dump and bake, right?
No, I absolutely. I mean, when you're working a combo or a double team, in theory, the technique is the technique, but you also learn who you're working with, and their strengths, their weaknesses. You know who needs more help. And when you kind of take some of that continuity away, some of that stuff gets, it can be a little hairy. But and I will say this, and it's the one thing I will say about Ole Miss playing Furman is in no way, shape, or form was Furman a static defense. They were very active. There was a lot of movement. They were somewhat aggressive and exotic in some of the pressures. And so there were times, if they just lined up and played the base front and kept things very simple, and Ole Miss had struggled, there's concern. Ole Miss having some plays they would like back versus a group that is outmatched and outmanned, but at the same time is firing live bullets and not being static, but really moving and trying to create problems and still finding some success despite the lack of continuity and with it being first game in. And there's some other things that, so much of what Ole Miss likes to do in the run game is about Jackson Dart and his ability to run the football. And they limited that. Only a couple of times was that part of the equation in the run game. I'm sure there were a couple of people that held their breath when Ole Miss was up several scores and all of a sudden Dart's keeping the ball.
There was one kind of a tall, slender guy that wears a visor that I was watching at the time that had a little mini coronary on the play where Dart decided that despite the fact that the Rebels were up 50 plus, that he was going to jump over a linebacker. That was not a moment that particular person enjoyed that much. And look, they're calling the game like that, not just because they want to protect him, but I think to some degree, because when we talked about it last week, the kid is the ultimate competitor and you almost have to protect him from himself in some regards. Yeah.
Right.
100%.
And that's meant in the most positive ways possible.
I think he would tell you that.
Oh, I absolutely, from what I can tell, but no, defensively, sure, there were a couple maybe busting coverage. And some of that, again, it's about continuity, right? But for the most part, from the way that Ole Miss fit and Ole Miss should look fast against Furman, but there was evident speed on the field defensively. Even when they went to the twos, there was speed on the field. And speed is always a recipe for success in the SEC.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think it's the one thing that when people are like, what did you take away? The thing that I took away, and I'd already seen this in practice, but sometimes you can't really tell in practice, especially when you're only seeing, and this isn't complaining about access or whatnot, but you only see the same 3 periods every practice. So the practices after you've been to a couple of them, they're all the same, right? You're just calling roll. You think you know what you see, but sometimes you don't know until you see it on a game film or game field, I should say. There's just more depth. They have more players who can be impactful.
And
defensive
absolutely,
line especially. It comes to my defensive line, wide receiver. There's just more guys who can impact the football game than Ole Miss typically has.
No question. And from the Georgia game on, there's been a lot of time talked about Ole Miss added size, and we talked about it last week. They became a bigger football team, and that's evident when you look at the backup defensive line. When that group of twos rolled in, the drop off from a size standpoint was almost non-existent. But I do think when they got bigger, but they got faster at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's a good combination. And obviously it's that offense wasn't the ultimate test and not what they're going to see moving forward in this season, but you saw what you needed to see. You saw guys reacting, reading keys, playing fast, controlling the line of scrimmage. And we saw some of the things that we talked about last week where, you can't double team everybody in that front. And somebody's got a chance to win. And we saw, we saw different players flash at times and make some plays, because they were the guy that got soloed. And they handled it the way that you need them to handle it, and they controlled the line of scrimmage and got in the backfield.
Pete, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Yeah. So, I put it out there, talking to some guys, or put it out there, I guess, on the message board today to see if there's anything specific anybody wanted to talk about, or to kind of see us highlight tonight. So I thought I would hit with some good, some bad, kind of answer some of the things that people asked to see. And there's a few things that just as I watched that I thought were worth kind of showcasing. So one thing we talked about last year is damn near every game, Ole Miss started off with some type of a sell concept where the outside receiver was either going to push vertical to the post, the inside receiver was going to be on this deep out route, and off of protection, somebody was going to end up in the flat, and they were going to layer the defense with this high to low. And more times than not, it was Ole Miss hitting Watkins on the sideline for this sell route. And so I thought it was interesting that no different than so many games last year, that's how Ole Miss chose to start the game again this year. Now, I would imagine for some people that maybe had not enjoyed themselves too much in the Grove and might have been sobered up by the rain after play one, there might have been the slightest concern because you get pressure and you see a sack on play one, and we'll kind of talk about it. But you can see it. I mean, they come out and they get what they want. Furman actually drops underneath it, and they get a little bit of collision on Caden Lee in the slot right there. But you see the receiver at the bottom of the screen, I think it's Trey Harris. He's pushing off the corner. You get the slot is working to the boundary right there, and it would have been a tough throw. But, and Dart chooses real quickly to go backside because he feels like 44 is getting underneath his route. I think he also feels the pressure. And as I go to the end zone here, looking at the approach that Ole Miss took to spring, there are going to be times where, things aren't maybe as clean as you want. So like if you watch here, again, we've talked about the continuity on the front. If you watch the defense, they are all going to slant and they are going to stunt. So 39 right here is responsible. They're going to bring 4 off the edge and they're going to slant everybody. And if the running back were to step up and work this way, 39 is probably going to take him. But because the back goes away, he's going to pass him off, and now he's going to activate into the rush. And
having some
back to it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, you can see Kalepo here. He's going to step to the center. He's going to read 39. And when 39 is still, he feels 0, and he's going to bang back out into the end. As the left tackle passes off 0 and 39 goes to loop, they're going to swap that off. They handle that really well. The center does a nice job of understanding he has the nose. If the nose were to cross back face, he has no help, so he stays square on him. What you see here in this scenario is you see Pigskin probably get a little too much depth, and he goes out to number 4 instead of letting 4 come to him and protecting his inside. So he kind of gives a two-way go to number 4 who chooses to get into a bull rush. If Pigskin steps up and takes away the inside, he forces 4 around, and this is probably a clean pocket where Dart has a chance to get rid of the ball comfortably. Because he gives up the inside leverage and gives up his inside hip on the bull rush, Dart's forced to step up, and the play goes down as a sack, or it may have been a 1-yard loss, no loss. So, out the gate, this is maybe one of those places where, okay, you wonder, just from a technique standpoint, maybe, if you put 86 in the position enough to take that defender off the edge. And I'm sure the way Ole Miss's defense plays, he's seen that look 50 times in camp, but it always comes back to technique right here. He's got to do a better job of protecting his inside. Okay. Couple plays later, the next play, Ole Miss gets into one of the most interesting run schemes I've seen since Lane Kiffin has been here. Okay. So they're going to execute a wham play. So they are going to leave this nose who's shaded unblocked. And they are going to bring 86 is going to come across, and he is going to look to kick out that nose. As the center steps to the right of the offense, if the nose gets in his hip pocket, he is going to come around and he is going to log instead of trapping that nose. Okay. And then what's interesting to me is the way they choose to handle it here on the left side of the offensive line. Typically, if you were running some type of a zone scheme, all of these guys would be moving in the same direction. And what they're actually going to do here is they're going to take the left tackle. He is going to work up to build the wall on number 4 right here. And they're going to take 71. He is actually going to go behind him almost like a pass play, like a pass set. And then he is going to trap the end. So they're trying to get flow this direction, let the center take 39, and then try to kick or log the nose and crease the ball right here. Okay. The pressure for Furman ends up just the way that they stunt ends up helping them just a little bit. They have this extra defender in the box. And what Dart really has to see here is, you have 6 blockers as an offense and you have 7 defenders in the box as a defense. And we talked last week about math, right? And if you were to go back to the wide copy and you look at it, he has a screen up top where he has 2 over 2, and one of those defenders is almost 12 yards off the ball. Jackson probably should have thrown this ball out there unless for some reason they told him that the give was automatic. Because you can see as the run scheme plays out, they can get to 39, but they can't get to number 4 in the run scheme right here. So number 4 goes unblocked, and he's the player that makes the play. If 4 is out in the pass fit, you have a great scheme right here, and you get exactly what you want for that ball to spit and be on the safety. And I don't think Ole Miss had great success running the ball on Saturday. I think they would probably tell you they weren't overly pleased with that. More often than not, Furman did a good job of finding the extra hat to get into the box. Now, we saw Ole Miss throw the RPO several times out there and have a lot of success doing it. There were probably some times where Ole Miss would like to have seen seen Dart be a little bit more consistent recognition-wise of getting the ball out in space. But that's also me looking at it, not knowing when they've told him, hey, we're showing the look out there, but reality is we're forcing you to hand this ball off. I don't know when he's live, when he's not, kind of some of those decisions. So I thought this was a really interesting scheme in the run, for Ole Miss in the run game. It's the only time I saw it during the game. I'm curious to see if it's something that we continue to see moving forward. Now, the other
just hang with us.
Wide receivers.
Go ahead. We're having just letting the listener know in case they're listening. We're just having a little connectivity issue here and there, but go ahead.
Sorry, guys. I'm not sure what's going on with the connectivity, but where Ole Miss might not have been great in the run game, they were really, really good in the passing game. And there were times where I felt like watching the game and, again, watching the replay, that Ole Miss was intentionally trying to get specific players the ball down the field. They wanted to put on tape that they have multiple guys that are capable of making plays down the field. They wanted to put on tape that they can attack you from a lot of different ways. And they really do a nice job of one here, okay? So Ole Miss, we're second and medium here. You're looking at a 2nd and 6. They are going to take, as first drive of the game, they are going to take the outside receiver and they're going to run him vertical, and his whole job is to clear the corner out of the zone.
Is that Aiden Williams at the top?
I believe it is. It's hard to see the numbers on this at the start of this clip.
Yeah.
They're going to take the slot here, who's Caden Lee, and he is going to work a post through the inside of this safety. Okay. If this safety were to rotate down and he were to rotate back and cover 3, he's going to cross the face of this safety and he is going to be open. All right. If they stay too high and this safety gets depth, he is going to cross face and try to force him to carry him. They're going to take Pigskin here from this wing position, and he is going to work this cell route towards this corner. So now when your outside receiver vacates and clears out the zone from the cornerback, and when Caden Lee pulls the safety, you're opening up this void that a flat player is not going to be deep enough that if Pigskin will run the grass and Dart will throw him the grass, a lot of opening. They're going to take the single receiver down here at the bottom, and he's going to go check up over the ball with the goal of holding these backers so that if the post route has to be flat because the safeties rotate, now you hold the backers and you open up a window for Caden Lee right behind him. So you'll see here what happens as it plays out. You get the clear out up top. The safeties don't rotate. They actually poach from the backside. So what that means is as he goes inside, he is reading number 3, and his number 3 works vertical. He is looking to catch anything that comes back across to him. So instead of this safety getting depth, he's going to stay low and look for any type of dig route, any type of crossing route that comes back his way. That means to the field, we have to play with depth. So as Caden Lee attacks vertical, you can see he bends it knowing right now, I've crossed this safety's face. This guy's got me. We're clearing things out on the outside, and you can see the void that's now being created for Pigskin, and his angle of departure being tall and not being flat out of his break is going to keep him from allowing this defender to tuck underneath. So as the play continues to run, there's the void, stay tall, and it's a good throw by Dart. And it is a great job. In the NFL, a lot of times you'll hear guys refer to what we see up top. And again, I do think that is Williams, but we see that referred to as what's called the soldier route. You're sacrificing yourself for somebody else. His job is to run through that corner and lift him out of there. If that corner were to come off any earlier, he's got a chance to make a play, but he has to respect the full speed vertical nature of the route. He can't come off of it early. And there's the dime right there. Drop it right in the window for a big play on a second down to get Ole Miss down now in the red zone. Okay. The very next play, Ole Miss gets into tempo. Okay. And now you're looking at, a quarterback with awareness of the system and an understanding of what's going on. So they're going to push again. You're going to get this outside vertical. His job is to clear everything out. They're going to motion this running back out to the flat, and Pigskin is going to run this stick route. If this defender leaves to take the running back, you are trying to replace him with the football before the mic or the safety can react to the stick route. What you see happening with the motion is you see multiple defenders start to move with the back, and that now gives him essentially a 2-on-2 backside because of how deep this boundary safety is. So they're going to push. Juice Wells is going to push vertical into a dig route. Caden Lee is going to release inside right at this backer. He's going to sit down. If there's a window, he's going to stay open. If that backer is on his hip, he's going to expand to the outside. To pull that backer and open up a bigger window. Here again, you see as the motion develops, you see the defense, they're going to check the sideline, whatever. There's the motion. The Mike blitzes, the will linebacker, everybody pushes. They're rotating cover 3 to the field. He knows as soon as he sees the pressure and that will backer here start to drop, he knows he's got a true 2-on-2 between 44 and this corner. There's the rotation from the boundary safety. So Caden Lee's going to run right at 44, sit in his lap. That opens up the window right there between 44 and 20. There's the ball on time for an easy gain. And when you've got explosive receivers, and I think I said that was Juice Wells, and that's actually Trey Harris. But there it is on time, easy, and he's always got a chance to make a guy miss in space. So nice maturation. It's a good job by Dart. He sees everything happening defensively, finds his easy window right there. Ball is out in rhythm. It's an accurate throw, and one of your best playmakers is now in space with the football. Okay. Skipping forward, coming back to the next drive. Go back to my wide copy here. Okay. So Ole Miss is going to attack vertical right here. All right. Getting into something very similar to what we showed you, how they actually started the game. And I wanted to show this because in the offseason, I remember just seeing some things and hearing some things and people talking about Jackson Dart and his future. What does the NFL hold for him? And people talk about a big arm and what that looks like. And a lot of times people think, is the big arm, is it the post? Is it the fade ball? And it really isn't a lot of times. You know, I mean, Joe Milton can throw the ball 90 yards. That doesn't mean that he's always going to be a great quarterback, right?
Right.
Making cross-field throws to the outside in rhythm with pace is such a big indicator for an NFL arm. So if you watch this, Ole Miss is going to push everyone vertical, and you're going to see Caden Lee is going to attack and stem this corner, and then he is going to break into a deep out route. And Jackson Dart is almost on the right hash. So you're kind of right middle here from a field position standpoint. Ball is on the minus 10-yard line. Okay. He's going to let this ball go from the 4-yard line. And he is going to put this thing with good pace in rhythm outside the opposite numbers where that ball is now caught on the 33-yard line.
He throws it 29 yards in terms of length, but it's further than that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a math guy, right? But you start factoring in the angles. I mean, that is a hell of a throw in rhythm. And the thing about Caden Lee, and I say this as somebody that was familiar with Caden as a high school player, and I think last year it was about getting his body ready and a little bit of his mind. And we saw that kid have a lot of success in the Peach Bowl. One thing he has always been is a really natural route runner. He understands how to stem people. So he gets this corner that is off, and they're showing rotation. So there they are. They're rotating to cover 3 right now. They're bringing pressure from the field. Parrish does a decent job of picking it up. And Caden is going to get in the window. He's going to show the post right now. That corner's thinking, protect the post, and then watch Caden stem the post here, and then boom, get out of his break, back to the sideline with good body control to make that catch. It's a great route on the outside by Caden Lee. It is a well-thrown ball in rhythm from Jackson Dart. And if Ole Miss can complete these types of passes against top-tier defenses, they are going to be very difficult to defend because that is a high-level throw. It is a high-level route. That's not a 10-yard comeback route. It's not a 10-yard out route. That is a deep sell route by an outside receiver that gives you a good post stem. And with a guy like Wells or Harris in the slot on this particular clip, they are going to occupy eyes and they are going to cause problems for a defense. Okay. Another really clean throw. And this, big touchdown pass from Dart here, really well thrown ball. Okay. They do a great job. Again, they're so versatile right now in that wide receiver room. So down here to the bottom, they're going to work the vertical, the little stutter move with Harris. And if this corner down here at the bottom had been any tighter, they probably take that go ball on the stutter to Harris. With the corner being so far off, Dart quickly now, boom, he gets his eyes backside now because he knows from a leverage standpoint, the hitch and go is not there. So on the top of the screen to the short side of the field, they run a switch double post. So the slot receiver is going to spray release. So he's going to release outside and attack the leverage of that corner. And at the top of his route, he is then going to get to the post and he is going to stay tall. And what they're trying to do now is isolate this safety. You have leveraged the corner with your stem. So now when Caden Lee comes underneath and breaks on his flat post, you're just high-lowing the safety. If the safety is down, you're over the top. If the safety plays with depth, you have Caden Lee now on this underneath post. So you can see, boom, a lot of people use the term that Caden gets in his wake. He gets behind him right there. You get the outside release by the slot receiver. Now, as Caden goes to bend it, there's the safety. Safety is flat-footed right now. He is down. The corner is out leverage. The receiver with his release top on the post. The ball just has to be thrown inside. And, Wells doesn't have to wait very much on that ball. It is in rhythm. It is pushed down the field. The pocket is clean, and it's absolutely an explosive for Ole Miss.
So is Furman in man-to-man there? They're not really, are they?
So what they're trying to play right here is they're trying to play a cover for four.
The reason I ask is that someone was asking about Furman was just playing man-to-man, and that person would know a hell of a lot more about defense than me. But I was watching from the press box, and I didn't think it was as simple as them playing man-to-man.
So they're playing they're playing a version of palms or quarters here, right? So that safety when number 2 goes outside, so when he sees Wells expand, and now he's responsible for the new number 2, which is Caden Lee that's come underneath. Once Caden Lee pushes a certain vertical landmark, I've got him, right? Once he clears those backers, he's essentially mine. It is a zone principle that turns into a match or man principle once routes declare past a certain depth. Is it straight up man-to-man? Under no circumstances, but it plays out that way from a responsibility standpoint once routes declare past a certain depth.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't make a big deal out of it, but it was like one of those things where the question was asked in almost this condescending manner about Furman. I mean, Furman had to like sort of pick some poison, right? And in this case, they weren't going to go out there and go, hey, we're going to go man-to-man with these elite SEC wide receivers. They were trying to do different things. They didn't have the personnel to do it, and B, Ole Miss's offense is really well tuned, and they have a third-year quarterback that knows exactly what he's looking for, and so he picked it apart.
Well, and listen, if Furman would have come out and said, we're just going to drop 8 and keep everybody deep the whole game, Ole Miss would have thrown the ball underneath and ran the football, and it still would have gotten ugly, right? I think ultimately, they made the decision that we're going to go be aggressive. We are the underdog. We know that. So we're just going to go fight, and we're going to throw everything at you, and we're going to play our game, and we're going to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a cup of cyanide here and a cup of cyanide here. You're picking which one you want to drink.
And look, if you're Furman and you decide to step out of your character and out of what you want your identity to be, and you still don't win the football game, which they knew was unlikely to happen, what have you done to make your team better? So you're going to go do what you do. You're going to go play what you play. And that's how you're going to evaluate your kids on their ability to execute what you need them to execute to win in your league.
Because they're not seeing this team in the Southern Conference.
No.
It's not happening.
Absolutely.
Right.
But at the same time, if I can play that front with that pressure and that coverage and have some success against Ole Miss, then I feel really good about what that's going to look like against UT Chattanooga. Yeah. That is their approach.
Yeah.
That lets them evaluate their kids.
Sanford doesn't have a Trey Harris.
They do not. Under no circumstance.
Right.
Moving forward, another sack in the game right here. And I think this is one of those that when you talk about from a continuity standpoint. So Ole Miss is going to flash the back across. They're going to lock Pettis on this side. And because it is an odd front, and you'll see 52 or the right guard actually taps his hip right there. He's telling you he's stepping down into a gap. So he's really thinking these two guys. So what happens right here as he goes to slide, the nose comes to him. Okay. The center nose just went away. He is looking for something here, and he oversets to take it. And I don't know if he thinks that the back is going to be responsible for 39 or if he just completely oversets looking for something coming inside. But when he oversets, by the time he realizes it and comes back underneath, hit the wrong button, and comes back underneath, he now gets somebody late in his face, and the mic just comes absolutely free. Okay. It is a good job by Furman. It is a good job by 39 of being patient, and it times up where 39 is here at the same time that 44 is working his stick inside. And now because in a perfect world, if you're Ole Miss, what you want to happen here is as you pass things off, you want 50 to trigger back inside onto this guy, and as 71 feels the pressure from 50, that tells him the loop is coming, where he should now take that, and you want 56 to stay more square and hopefully see this to be able to slam back on it. They miss it here. It's a well-timed pressure, and there's the sack. Now, Ole Miss gets bailed out a little bit by the penalty, but these are the little things that you need to clean up if you're Ole Miss. Going back to, and I've already kind of raved on the kid a little bit tonight, but I think we know the role that Watkins has played in this offense in the last couple of years and the versatility he's shown. The fact that they feel like they can do so many of the same things with Caden Lee really should make you feel good again about depth.
He's a more explosive Jordan Watkins.
In a lot of ways, I think you could absolutely argue that. And so this was one of the things that I saw that made me really appreciate Caden in this game. So Ole Miss is going to run a duo concept where they are going to build as many front side combos as they can. And they are going to feather out this backside. And they're actually going to bring Caden Lee across. Backer fits in, he's going to try to hug off of these combos and spit the ball right on the outside. If 39 were to fit outside, the running back is going to try to keep it inside and now cut off of his combos. And we've seen Ole Miss use receivers to do similar things in the past, but to show here that Caden Lee can come across, and you'll see here come the combos on the front side. There comes 19 across right there, build the wall. There's the cut for the tailback. And you can see it doesn't have to be a kill shot. It has to be enough. And he clearly shows he is willing to do enough. And the fact that he can do that now gives you the cut and is able to help spring the running back for the next big play. And that's such a little thing, but from a football nerd standpoint, from an offensive coordinator standpoint, those are the things that the more I can get guys to buy in and do little things like that, the more explosive it potentially makes me, because it just gives me so much flexibility and freedom.
Well, you know this because you're from Georgia, but I mean, he's a remarkably smart kid, good kid, team player, has a lot of football IQ, and is also exceptionally athletic. I mean, he's kind of the whole package.
And I'll just side note here, and I honestly don't know. I need to go back and actually look at the counts, but one of his absolute best friends in this world plays for Furman. And I'm curious to now know if Jalen Mosen was dressing for Furman and if he traveled with the group, because he's one of their young defensive backs. But I was asked to show the pre-score and long touchdown right here. Okay. And so one thing Ole Miss does a ton of, and it is an absolute staple, is they run a ton of Y cross. So your backside, you're going to be over, under, and you're climbing on the cross. And this backside guy has a dig, but he's going to ultimately find the window and be friendly to the quarterback. They're going to fake it to the tailback here, who, if he doesn't get protection responsibility, is going to end up in the flat, creating a little high-low on the flat defender. On the front side of the concept, they will dress it up 100 different ways. They will run a traditional smash concept, which we saw in the game. They will run a vertical with the 5-yard out, which is kind of the original way it's the way a lot of air raid teams have run this play. It's the way Norm Chow, going back in the West Coast days, have run this play. A lot of teams now will actually push that to a 10-yard out route. And what you're really trying to do is kind of yes-no the front side. If I get a chance for a 2-on-2 or a 1-on-1 matchup, it's a very easy read. And if I don't get a 2-on-2, if I'm outnumbered, if something gets cloudy, I'm going to scan backside. So my first read is to the short side here, my second read, my third guy, and then I get my tailback down here in the check down. So Ole Miss at this point in the game has thrown several screens to the boundary. So what they're going to do right here is they're going to show the screen to Juice Wells. Pre-scoring is going to break down and show the screen and wait on number 5 to trigger. And when he does, he's going to release down the flat or down the sideline. Okay. If this safety is sound, he's going to expand to be over the top of this when the corner crashes. And that, in theory, is going to open up the crossing route from the backside. If that corner stays on the hash and 5 does attack the screen, that's when you get the big play down the field to whoever is bluffing. In this case, that is pre-scoring. Right here, it honestly looks like this safety is confused or this guy is confused. This safety rotates almost as if he's expecting to be some type of cover 3 principle, but the corner attacks like he's expecting cover 2 help over the top. That's why you play with tempo. It's why you show all these multiple looks. So you'll see right here, as pre-scoring comes down, 5 attacks as if he's got help over the top. But 22, the boundary safety, has turned his butt to the sideline and is working to the field. So as soon as pre-scoring, throttle down, show hips, show numbers, show low hands. As soon as 5 attacks, pre-scoring's down the sideline, Dart sees it. So does everybody on the sidelines. Now, I'm going to get on the coach soapbox really quickly and probably talk about my absolute favorite thing from Saturday. Jackson Dart got pulled out of the game, and at no point in the game was he disengaged. Defense on the field, the offense on the field didn't matter. He was always there supporting somebody, and he wasn't the only one I saw doing it. Juice Wells could have gone a lot of places, and he was going to get paid to go a lot of money wherever he chose to go. Look at his joy. He knows what's happened right now and throws his hands up. He is fired up about it. This is a game that at this point, Ole Miss is already blowing out Furman. And we saw and we heard from some things going into the season about how close-knit this group is. That shows up when guys don't have the ball and they're not on the field. And that's not me like saying, oh, this means Ole Miss is going to do this or they're going to achieve that.
Of course.
But you have to like, from the standpoint of, and you see on the sidelines, look at how many hands go up. They know it right now. There's 4 hands on the sidelines up in the air, and not counting Kiffin. And there's another one down here. And then here's Wells celebrating. And seeing the engagement in those blowout situations where it's very easy for guys to be distracted, but seeing the
it's a maturity
standpoint. Absolutely, it's a maturity thing.
Yeah, and so it's the whole. We've had some fun with it, right? The whole Last Dance thing, and what does that mean? And it's kind of there's a lot there, but you've got guys like Juice Wells, and look, the South Carolina game's coming, and it's going to be a storyline. And I asked him about it this week, and if we get him again that week, and I hope we do, I'll ask him more about it because guys have said things, and he left, and there was some mixed opinion there as to whether he could have played or whatnot. But I think if you listen to some of the answers from guys like Princely Amonmielen, Walter Nolan, Daquan Wright, Juice Wells, others, there's a in their opinion, at least, we'll find out over the course of time, there's a culture that Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart, others, JJ Pegues have built at Ole Miss that doesn't exist everywhere else. Now, does that culture survive adversity? We'll find out. I mean, like, I thought Jackson Dart's comment a couple weeks ago, I was like, hey, what are you kind of looking forward to? And he said, I'm looking forward to adversity. Preseason camp, you can generate some adversity, but this, Pete, it's not real. I mean, it's artificial. And so at some point, I don't know if it's Kentucky, I don't know if it's LSU, I don't know if it's Oklahoma, I don't know if it's, it will be Georgia. Jesus. Is that, there will, but at some point adversity will come and you'll find out just how much chemistry you truly have. And so we'll find out over the course of time, but given where we are in the schedule right now, I agree with you. I thought there were some real signs I mean, there was a 0% chance Ole Miss was losing to Furman. 0. It was never happening. Those two teams could play each other 100 times. Furman would not win once. Everybody knew it. And for them to still show up and play with that level of maturity and stuff, I thought you could take that from it. Now they've got to turn around. As Lane said, hey, they beat Mercer last year 70-something to nothing and turned around the next week. And Tulane was iffy. Tulane was good. Tulane was good. Middle Tennessee's not going to beat Ole Miss. But can you repeat that same intensity? Can you do it again at Wake Forest, who sucks? Can you do it against Georgia Southern, who's not particularly a threat to you? We'll find out over the course of time, but I agree with you completely. I thought there were some phenomenal signs on Saturday in terms of kind of this team indeed being as team-focused, as goal-focused as they talk about.
Yeah, there was a point in the game where that's all I was watching. I wasn't watching anything else. It was what are the interactions like on the sideline? Who's where? Who's engaged? I've spent way more time on offense than I really intended to, but I wanted to show this clip. Somebody asked me to talk about 12P because we talked about it last week, and we did see 2 tight ends on the field at the same time for Ole Miss. And one of the things I talked about last week was you have to make a decision as a defense. When there's 2 tight ends in the game and they're creating extra gaps, how am I going to play it? And we talked about how it can create one-on-one matchups for receivers. This clip, I'm going to pretend that one of the young analysts watched this show last Thursday or Friday, and Lane gave them a call late in the game, and this is what they chose because they wanted us to look good, Neil. So right here, Ole Miss put probably 2 tight ends in the game. It's definitely what happened, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So they put 2 tight ends in the game. This is a down in the red zone, and they're getting into a duo scheme, just a heavy downhill scheme. Jackson Dart knows he is responsible for this backside safety. He is going to read that safety, and as soon as that safety fits the box, that is a one-on-one matchup with one of the best receivers in the country. And you are going to have to be really good at corner to win that effectively multiple times over the course of a game. And right here, it's stealing. You see Dart's eyes. He's in the mesh. The safety is downhill right now. There it is. Easy pitch and catch, walk-in touchdown. Like this is 2 tight ends on the field creating a one-on-one matchup for an explosive player with a very simple RPO read for the quarterback. It couldn't get much easier. And so just a really clean example of why you may see. And you see if Ole Miss hands this ball off, he's got a chance to potentially, if he makes one guy miss, the extra guy that they can't account for, he's got a place to score, to spit and potentially score. So I think you'll continue to see more of that when Ole Miss wants to see it. So I'm going to try to move a little bit quicker right here. Just kind of looking at this Ole Miss defense. One thing that again, speed, size, versatility. All right. And I'm still figuring this roster out. But one of the things that I loved about the way that they played defense the other night is they played with 3 safeties on the field. And based on the alignment of the ball, it dictated where the alignment was. So in this case, ball's on the right hash for the offense, left hash for the defense. So you get 28 is down playing as the star. He's playing as the nickel. When the ball kicks over to the opposite hash, 28 backs up. He moves over, and now 5 comes down. The fact that you have that amount of versatility, and again, it's Furman. Will it look the same versus Auburn or whoever on the SEC schedule? But the fact that you have the versatility for both of these safeties to play down, but also rotate back and play a deep half gives you so much that you can do on the back end as a coordinator. It really gives you a lot of freedom, lets you get into a lot of different looks. Having corners that you trust to be here and press regardless of opponent is always such a big thing. Okay. I'm going to kick to the end zone real quickly and show this. All right. So Ole Miss, from a fit standpoint, they just continue to get better and better. here. So what they're going to do is they're essentially going to take the inside gaps and they are going to try and occupy them with the defensive line. Both linebackers here know that they're going to be responsible for C gap. Instead of taking this wide player here and trying to get him inside the B, they're inviting him now. If he turns out, he can be downhill. If he steps down, I'm going to come off his hip, and as the sniffer number
Just hang tight. Little connectivity issue right here as Pete's showing some of Furman's offense on Saturday versus Ole Miss's defense early. What appears to be early in the game because the linebackers are Kari Coleman and TJ Dottery. So it's the early part of the game, first quarter probably, because Pupal played starting in the second quarter, played a whole lot at linebacker for Ole Miss, the former Arkansas player. Just kind of working on some connectivity issues. In fact, I'm going to hit the pause button here. I'll get Pete back and we'll get back to you. Hang tight.
So, Ole Miss, because they have the ability, they're big enough, they're good in the interior. They're going to place them here. Ivy does a good job across and face. So now both linebackers can fit to the outside. So as they go to hand this ball, both A gaps are occupied. Nolan almost overshoots his gap, and Pegues kind of almost knocks him back into it. But Pegues is able to get vertical. Nolan's able to win on 72 right here. Ivy fits and demands the double team. So now 7 wants to bounce the ball. He wants to be out here, but he sees the fit from the backer, has to cut back underneath. And between the job that 1 has done off the edge and Pegues getting vertical, there is nowhere to go. There were a couple snaps in the game where Ole Miss busted coverage, and you can see this is the first one. And you can see pre-snap here, they're still talking right up until the point this ball is snapped. You can see, 9 and 5 trying to communicate with one another. And 9 is clearly expecting help over the top. So right here, when he gets a vertical push, and you can see he is inside leverage from the jump right here. Okay, so when the outside receiver releases outside and 9 stays inside, he is expecting help over the top because when the slot receiver breaks out, he has to be able to react to it. I can't tell you who's wrong in this situation. I think just whether it was the tempo that caused an issue, a late signal or change from the sidelines, but they're clearly still communicating when the ball snapped. So now, because of the way the linebacker expands with this out route, my money says that he's supposed to be deep, but he sees the out route, goes to break on it, and because the safety is flat-footed and not playing a deep half technique, it's a really good read and a good ball by the Furman quarterback, in response to what he gets right there to that boundary side. Okay, it's like I said, he sees it. The quarterback sees it now. He sees now eyes are inside by number 9. He is flat-footed, ready to break the out route, and you can see the quarterback is already. He knows where this ball is going based on eyes of the corner and the body language of the safety. And he's able to squeeze that whole shot.
I kind of liked their quarterback. Is it Carson Jones? I think is his name. I thought he played well.
I think the kid's a pretty good player. Absolutely. I'd be curious to see what his tenure at Furman looks like if he continues to place the ball like he did at times.
Yeah.
When he was protected in this game, I thought he showed the live arm and some solid decision making for sure.
I did too. I thought he did some good things. I mean, when you're running for your life.
So I do think, though, those are things that doesn't. Ole Miss is obviously going to clear up those little communication things. If I can get this clip to load, things are slowing down on me for some reason. All right. So One thing that I think we knew going into the season, Ole Miss likes their pressure. They think they can get there with 4, probably a decent amount. They also feel more comfortable in the back end playing man to man. Okay. So, right here, I thought they did a great job playing man to man and handling communication. So, right now, 23 is man to man on the tailback, and 6 is probably about to be a part of the pressure. When they motion the back out, you see everybody talking. And as soon as that back goes in motion, 6 now knows he's got to go take him, and 23 is going to replace him and now be part of the pressure. So they have handled that late communication. Okay. They're going to rotate to cover 1 here, and they're going to still play their man to man on the outside. So they handle that switch right there. They handle the motion. The pressure up front is effective. Is a great job by the secondary right here, passing off things that needed to pass off, locking onto things that needed to lock off, but adjusting the blitz path to get to the rush that they want and handle the motion at the same time was a really nice job. That is not something you saw very much of out of this Ole Miss defense last year. We talked earlier, tonight, kind of starting off, about obviously how much size there is, but the athleticism of this defense and in this defensive front in particular, just absolutely outstanding. So you're looking at the 2s in theory on the interior right here, and guys rolling in. But you watch right here, you watch the shade there as he goes and almost gets cut. He is going to read the pull of the guard and try to get in the pocket and maybe even try to cross face of the center. He gets cut by the center right there, and his athleticism to get back on his feet in that scenario is astounding. At the same time, you take a guy that was a little bit undersized last year, flashed and showed, and he's a little bit more physical this year. Again, it's Furman, it's early, but you watch the bull rush here to take the inside gap on the edge here from 4. The linebacker's patient. Here comes the cut right back into his lap. But again, you talk about the young talent and depth on this defensive line. The fact that he gets off of his knees, essentially plays the cut block, and is able to redirect and be athletic enough to get back on that ball, that is not something you have seen a ton of out of this Ole Miss front. The flip side is now you watch to the field. They're going to slant and the tackle crosses face. If he continues to run outside, he's going to get kicked out and they have a chance to get creased. When he crosses face of this tackle, he is athletic enough now to get his outside foot in the ground and still collision the puller right there and try to get underneath that pull to make the ball spit back inside. Just again, we have not seen that type of athleticism from an Ole Miss front. And we're not talking about the 2 upperclassmen, all SEC level players here. And so taking it with the understanding of who the opponent is, but at the same time, just understanding the athleticism and the understanding of what's being asked of them is encouraging as an Ole Miss fan. And again, just talking about the freaking speed on the field defensively, watching the way that they react to things. And if you watch this screen, this is a double screen. If nobody reacts to the motion by 7, he's going to throw the swing to 7. They're going to block 1, they're going to block 2. And if 6 doesn't expand, that's where the ball's going. Once he expands, now they're going to come backside and they're going to try to throw this tunnel to number 1. And they want to get guys out, and that ball wants to hit right there. Okay. Ole Miss obviously playing man-to-man, so there goes the backer expanding with the running back in the motion. They sense the screen. Every defensive lineman, 3 out of 4, sense the screen. They turn, they retrace, which is exactly what they teach them to do. But my favorite thing about this play as I watched it is when he gets tackled, the only defenders not within 5 yards of the football are the guy that went to force the tailback because he had him in man-to-man and the backside corner that has already started at a pursuit angle just in case the ball spits. That is what you want defense to look like at all times. And so, again, the speed on the field, the awareness, the recognition, just and the way that they pursued the football and the leverage with which they pursued the football was very encouraging to me. Okay. Going back to a negative really quickly. This is the next bust we see. So Furman is going to pack it in. They're going to show a 7-man. Now, part of this is them being in the absolute right call against this pressure. So Ole Miss is going to blitz the corner. Typically what that means is you're going to get into some type of a cover 3. So you're expecting this guy to be over the top. He's going to be deep middle. 3 is going to bail here. What we see here is when they blitz the corner, 28 gets caught up on the inside release here, and the linebacker can't get out to get with that wheel route because of the action that he sees. So just the right call. If Ole Miss is in a traditional cover 3 right there, even if they're just playing traditional cover 1 right there, I think you see this play get covered and it's not a completion. It's a timing thing. Because Ole Miss has the pressure on, and I think 28's eyes may not be exactly where they're supposed to be right there, he loses it. There's a good decision again by the quarterback, a good ball by the quarterback, and you see an explosive play for Furman. That is going to happen sometimes, but at the same time, if you want to be confident in making these type of pressure calls, you have to be confident that the rest of the secondary is going to know how to adjust, and I'm sure that's one they spent some time looking at in the film room over the weekend. Last clip that I'm going to show, just again, going back to, you understand who it's against. And if it looks the same in SEC play, against Oklahoma, then clearly there's a lot of reason to be excited. But again, you just look at how Ole Miss fits the football. They're using their stunts right there. Ivy's going to come down, and when he gets this down block, he's going to come off the hip, and he's going to take the first puller, and he's going to spill it. So he's going to attack the inside hip. That's going to force the second puller around to this edge man, who is then going to hit it in the mouth and try to box it, and you're trying to leave the ability of the backers to now scrape over the top unblocked and fit right in the gap. So there's Ivy. Boom. He's going to spill. There's 5, the safety, and the tight end actually passes him up. So in a perfect world, they probably want him there, and here's 6 who's unblocked to make the tackle. Instead, the tight end is going to turn up on 6. There's 5 off the edge. So if the ball spits to the outside, there's the tackle. Here he feels it off the edge. So he actually goes to cut back, but Pigskin has done a great job of pressing the center, fill the pool, press the center, and squeeze the play from the backside. And there's just absolutely nowhere to go. But if I'm Ole Miss right here from a fit standpoint, seeing the spill, the box, and both backers scrape now, that is exactly how you want to fit that ball. If there's anything you might want to see different, it's kind of tough here that he actually does a good job of staying square. If this guy's upfield too much and his shoulders are turned, you would see Paul underneath. If he's too flat, you see Paul 100% over the top. Right here, you see him still working to get over the top, because if the ball cuts all the way back, he knows that between Ivy and the backside safety, you've got somebody to fit it. So just from a structure standpoint, Ole Miss, I thought, did a really clean job of fitting things in the run game. Obviously, they reset the line of scrimmage time and time again with their defensive front. And you really just had those 2 busts on the back end that both appear to be communication issues. And outside of that, it was really a clean game from Ole Miss defensively.
Tell you what's not clean, Pete. So what's not clean is Wendy's saucy nugs. You need extra napkins because you've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love, turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker, try spicy ghost pepper. It's only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
I got to say, the taste test you did last week made me want to go and try the ghost pepper.
You should. Absolutely.
So that's on my to-do list.
It needs to be on the to-do list. I'll look forward to hearing about how you like those. Try some of the buffalo. They're excellent. The honey barbecue. I love those as well. If you're a Parmesan guy, you'll love those. I'm not as much of a Parmesan guy as other people, but that's okay. There's something for everyone at participating U.S. Wendy's. All right, so next week it's Ole Miss and Wake Forest, a game that when Ole Miss scheduled it, Wake Forest was a better program than it is today. Is what it is. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Demon Deacons a little bit. Hitting the road next week. It's Middle Tennessee this week. There's just not a whole lot to say. It's Derek Mason's first year. A lot of transfers. They got to win in week 1 against Tennessee Tech. It was close. Ole Miss is a 41 point favorite as of right now. It's a game that Ole Miss is going to win. Ole Miss is going to win it easily. I'm kind of glad we did what we did instead of pretending that Middle Tennessee is going to be something that it's not. But competition's coming. Kentucky looked good in week 1. I know LSU lost to Southern Cal, and there's this LSU hot take that's out there. I think it's kind of premature. Oklahoma did some good things. Jackson Arnold looked good. Arkansas looked good in week 1 against a really, really bad team. Georgia looks like Georgia. So their tests coming over the course of the season. It won't be easy, but I like this Ole Miss team. I think it's really good, and as you just showed, it's a really sound, fundamentally sound, athletic, fast team.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see where the team goes moving forward, just as competition continues to get better. But if this team stays healthy, in particular along the lines of scrimmage, obviously all of the fanfare and the excitement for the season, at this point certainly seems justified.
All right, we'll be back next week with another edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview. It's brought to you by Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James. Don't forget, get in touch with them at 601-368-2215 or ryan.geary@raymondjames.com. So for Pete DeWeese, I'm Neil McCready. Until next time, have a great weekend. Travel safe, and we'll talk to you soon.